Hello, my name is Lieutenant Steve Click from the Office of Personnel, and I'm going to talk to you today about crisis intervention as a part of the 2016 Professional Staff In-Service Training. What is the definition of a crisis? There are three characteristics of a crisis state. First of all, the person's behavior is at an intense emotional and irrational level. Sometimes it's brought on by a critical incident, something has happened in their life, but they're at a very intense emotional state at this time. Normally, the critical incident may have occurred within 24 to 48 hours from the time of the change in the person's behavior, and they perceive the situation as being overwhelming. They're unable to cope with it, they feel threatened, either their physical well-being or their psychological well-being, but they feel threatened at the time. Some possible causes include brain chemistry. It could be a physiological response to an illness or something that's caused a change in the brain chemistry. The person could suffer from developmental disabilities. While not always the case, it could be a possibility. There could also be a physiological deterioration of the brain. Again, that would go along with the brain chemistry or some other issues that are medical in nature. There could have been damage to the brain brought on by blunt force trauma, a motor vehicle crash, an assault, a fall. Something has happened which has caused blunt force trauma to the head, which could cause this irrational behavior or this feeling of being in crisis. There could be other severe stressors or trauma that the individual has suffered. They could also be feeling unbearable stress that might cause them to feel suicidal, either in their thinking or in their actions. And lastly, substance abuse can create a situation where an individual feels that they're overwhelmed and they feel that they're in crisis. One of the best ways to deal with an individual that you believe is in crisis or suffering from a crisis situation is a term called active listening. It is attempting to hear and understand what the person is saying beyond the words, actually listening to what they're telling you as opposed to just listening to the words. Most people have a desire to be understood. One of the things that they feel when they're in a period of crisis is that no one understands, no one cares about their situation. Active listening demonstrates that you're aware of what they're going through and you're sensitive to their emotions. Active listening is critical to developing this relationship. They have to feel as though that you're interested in their well-being and that you're truly listening to what they say. If you try to placate them, if you try to make it seem like you're just going through the motions, they'll recognize that immediately and you'll lose that good relationship that you have to have in order to help these folks. How do we demonstrate active listening? One technique is mirroring. We repeat the last few words or the gist of what they've had to say. I understand that you're really upset about the letter that you got, if I understand you correctly. You're really angry about something that's happened in your life. You're very hurt by the fact that this person left you or whatever. So you actually take the last couple of words they say. You can also paraphrase. Take their words and put them in yours. So what I understand you to say is that you're unhappy because you're being evicted from your apartment and you have nowhere to go. Is that correct? So you're taking what they said, you're putting it into your words, and you're asking them if that's what they mean, and you're looking for understanding. You can also label their emotions. You seem to be very angry. You seem to be very hurt. You seem to be very upset. Is that correct? Ask them questions that lets them know that you're paying attention, you're getting an idea of what they're going through, and that you're very interested in helping them. You also can summarize. After the person has told you what their problem is or what they need, then you can say, so if I understand you correctly, what you want us to do is contact your doctor, contact your family, contact a department, provide you help or something like that. You're taking everything that they've told you and you're wrapping it up and then asking, is that correct? Is that what you're asking for? That lets them know that you've listened to their entire story, you're paying attention to what they're saying, and you're trying to completely understand what it is they're going through and what it is they're asking you to do. A good acronym to remember is LEAPS. Listen. Actively listen and look interested. Not only look interested, be interested in what they're having to say. This is extremely important. This person is in crisis. They need your full attention, not looking at your phone, not looking at your watch, not checking email or looking around. They need you actively involved in the conversation. Empathize with what they're going through. You may not completely understand. They may or may not be logical in their thought process and how they're explaining it to you. But certainly try to understand and empathize that they're going through a crisis, an emergency situation to them, and that you're there for the understanding and that you empathize with what they're going through. Ask general open-ended questions. Don't ask yes or no questions because that lets them get off the hook too easy. So what is it you would like us to do? How does that make you feel? Now that you've explained this to me, do I have a good understanding of what you were telling me? Did what I say to you make sense? What can I do to help you? Paraphrase. Put in your own words what their message was. That lets them know that you're listening close enough that you can put it into your words and you understand, and you're repeating it back to them. They may or may not understand. That might lead to further conversation, which can lead to further clarification. And lastly, summarize. Take everything that's been said by them and by you, indicate the outcome. Keep it brief, keep it concise, and make it definitive. Don't make it something that they can argue about or leads to other problems. Summarize it, bring it to a point that you can actually say, so do I have a good understanding of what you're asking us to do? And summarize it at that point. Special populations. One of the things you need to make sure is that your safety is never compromised. These folks might be suffering from a medical condition. Again, they could have suffered an injury. They could have a pre-existing condition that you're not aware of. Try to look for some of the identifiers. Ask questions. When did you start feeling this way? Do you know what caused you to be upset? Do you know what upset you today? What made you angry? Observe their characteristics. You seem very agitated. You seem extremely upset. You seem like you're sweating a lot. You look like you're very warm. You look like you're cold. You look like you're sad. Something like that, that's something that you can actually see. Ask them about that and vocalize it. One of the good questions to ask is, what help do you need right now? They may or may not know. They may be able to tell you, they may not. But if you ask what they need to help, they may be able to tell you. I need you to call my doctor. I need you to call my family. I need you to drive me to the hospital. Something like that. They might be able to give you an indication of what help they need right now. Maybe they need a drink of water. Maybe they need a few minutes of quiet. Ask them that question. Model calmness. You want them to be calm. The more you exhibit calm, the more you exhibit being relaxed and under control, the more their chances are they will mirror that. Conversely, if you get upset, if you get angry, if you get agitated, if you get animated too much, they're probably going to reflect those same characteristics. Speak softly. Keep it simple. Don't use complicated words. Don't string a lot of sentences together. Keep the conversation simple, brief, and move slowly. Those things will help in establishing that trust that you need with these folks in order to properly communicate with them. Some of the things to avoid, some of the tactics and behaviors. Don't move suddenly. Don't give rapid orders, and certainly don't raise your voice and shout. Don't force a discussion. Maybe they don't want to talk. Maybe they just want to sit there and be quiet for a few minutes. They might be trying to collect their thoughts. They might be trying to get control of their emotions because they feel out of control. Don't try to force a discussion. It will come in time. They will open up hopefully in a few minutes. Give them that few minutes to get their thoughts together so they can continue the conversation. Maintain direct and continuous eye contact with the individual. Don't be looking around. Again, don't be looking at your phone, looking at your watch, looking at the computer screen, glancing around to see what else is going on. That shows a complete lack of attention, a complete lack of interest in what they're going through. And they will see that immediately. Even if you don't mean it that way, they'll notice it, and it will be a very difficult to get past that. Do not touch the individual. Some people are tactile. They like to touch. They like to put a hand on a shoulder. They like to hold a hand. Don't do that in this situation. You have no idea how they're going to respond to that. They may feel it's a threat. They may feel that you've closed in on their area. They're already feeling in crisis and overwhelmed. That may make them feel trapped. It may make them feel like you're trying to control them. So avoid any contact if at all possible. The only exception to that would be if it's for safety. Don't crowd them. Give them plenty of room. For instance, if you're going to take them something to drink, set it down on the counter and step back so that way they don't feel like you're crowding them. Don't put them in a corner and sit right next to them. Don't hover over top of them. If they're sitting down, try to get a chair where you can sit down and be at their level. Don't stand higher than they are. You don't want to make them feel like you've impinged on that comfort zone. They have to feel comfortable. They have to feel in control right now in order to be able to effectively communicate. Don't express anger, impatience, or irritation. This is a process. It's going to take a few minutes. It's not going to resolve quickly. They may or may not be making sense. They may or may not be able to adequately convey to you how they're feeling, and they may not have good communication skills. Remember, they're in a period of crisis. Their system is completely messed up right now, and their ability to effectively communicate has been really hampered. Don't get angry at them. Don't get impatient. Don't say, look, if you're not going to tell me what you need, you got to leave. Don't tell them that they've got a couple of minutes or you're going to move on or whatever the case may be. Stay calm. Be patient with them. Show empathy. Don't assume if they're not responding that they're ignoring you. Again, they're trying to get their thoughts together. They're trying to be able to communicate effectively. They may feel like they're fighting to keep their emotion in check. We've all had that situation where we're trying to talk to somebody and we feel that emotion welling up, and we take that couple of seconds to fight that back down. For folks in crisis, that may take a little bit longer. Just relax, be patient, it'll come. Don't use sarcasm or inflammatory language. Watch what you say. Be careful about what you say. Slang, inappropriate terminology, swearing, all of those things are things that are going to really impact in a negative way your ability to communicate with these individuals. Don't lie or mislead. They'll see that in a second. Don't say that you can do something when you know you can't and they know you can't. Oh, I can make this all better. If you'll give me just time, I'll make this go away, or I'll make this problem better, or something like that. While they may want that, and they may have told you they want that, as soon as you say that, they know you can't do that. And now you've lost all credibility. So make sure that you don't lie to them or say something just to try to calm them down. What are your goals? Your first and most important goal is your safety. You have to stay safe in this situation. That doesn't mean everybody's a threat. That doesn't mean that you always have to assume that there's a physical threat to your safety. However, it always has to be in the back of your mind. And the most important aspect of this program is for you to be safe in dealing with these individuals. If they begin to make threats towards you or anyone else, take it very serious. They're not just blowing off steam. If they're making threats about hurting someone, if they're making threats about having a weapon, if they're making threats about injuring other people or injuring themselves, take it extremely seriously. Take it as the fact that they fully intend to do that. They're in crisis right now. They're not really thinking about misleading people. If they say it, they probably mean it. You need to stay calm. How you stay and how you deal with the situation is how the situation will go. The calmer you stay, the more logical your own thought processes will be. You'll be able to think through this to a successful resolution. They will mirror that, and they will see that you're staying calm, and that will encourage them to stay calm. A person in crisis wants help. They don't really want to hurt themselves necessarily or others. They want help. If they're coming to us, if they're coming to a patrol post, if they're coming to an office, if you're dealing with them out in public, understand they probably want help. They want somebody to make it better. They want somebody to listen to them. They want this to be better. They're not out to hurt you. They're not out to hurt themselves. However, understand that because they're in crisis, not all of their thought processes will be logical. Staying calm and being compassionate will show that you're genuinely interested in what you can do to help them. That's vitally important, that they believe that you have their best interests at heart. You want to make this better. You're trying to de-escalate the situation. Try to get them to calm down. Try to get them to bring down their volume. Try to get them to relax. Maybe have a seat. Can I get you something? Can I get you water or something like that? Get assistance as soon as possible from sworn personnel. They don't have to respond in like a SWAT team, but what they do need to do is they need to be coming to your assistance. This may resolve itself perfectly fine without that sworn assistance. However, if it does turn into a situation where it becomes a threat to your safety, the individual becomes a threat to themselves or others, you need to have those folks that are specially trained and equipped to deal with that situation if it goes beyond being able to have a conversation or discussion. They're not stupid. Just because they're in a state of crisis doesn't impair their intelligence. They know what's going on. They know if you're trying to deceive them. They know if you're lying. They know if you're making things up. So don't insult their intelligence by assuming because they're upset, they're angry, or they are in crisis that they're not an intelligent person, because they probably very much are. They will spot deception in you. You don't have to tell them everything, but don't try to fool or deceive them. You don't have to tell them that you have officers coming in to help. When they get there, they'll see them. You don't have to tell them that this is out of your ability to be able to fix something. They know that. Just listen to them, talk to them. Don't try to deceive. Don't try to lie, and otherwise they'll spot that immediately. Don't exceed your area of expertise, education, or training. Don't say, well, if I could talk to your husband or wife, I think I could make this better. Or, I know exactly what you're going through, and give them advice on how to fix their life. You can't fix everything. You probably can't fix any of this other than to be able to listen to them, possibly give them a referral to somebody who has the education, training, and expertise to deal with whatever has created this situation for them. You're going to have a limited amount of time with these folks. What you don't want to do is start to be able to tell them, well, I think you need to do this. You need to dump him. You need to dump her. You need to quit your job. You need to do this with your children. Don't get into that. Don't exceed your expertise, education, or training. Don't argue with them. No matter what they say, you're not going to win the argument. So don't get into an argument with an individual, no matter what they say. Go along with it. You don't have to agree. You don't have to validate it, but there's no sense in arguing because you're not going to convince them otherwise. Anyone can find themselves in a state of crisis at any time without warning and without prior instances. They could have a panic attack. Something could have happened. They could have suffered an injury. They could have a physiological problem. Anybody could find themselves in a crisis without any prior time that this has ever happened to them. It could have been a sudden or traumatic event. Maybe they've suffered a major life change, loss of a child, loss of a spouse, loss of a job, loss of a home, something like that has created this state of crisis in their own minds, their ability to handle things and to be able to cope. So anyone can find themselves in that situation. Being in a position to assist them could happen anytime, anywhere. We're talking about work, but it could happen at your child's sporting event. It could happen at the grocery store. It could happen at a restaurant. It could happen at church. It's not something that just happens at work. It could be a family or friend. It could be at a social event. It could be at a family event that you're at, and all of a sudden someone finds themselves in a position of crisis. It may be a stranger. You may be walking to your car in a parking lot and encounter an individual who's suffering crisis. Never, ever, ever put yourself at risk or at danger. Maintain some distance. Be able to have an escape route if you think that the situation's turning dangerous. Be able to get help on the way just as quickly as possible. All you're trying to do is help keep that situation from getting worse until folks that have the training, expertise, and experience can get there and help this individual and give them the help that they need. Possibly transport them somewhere, be able to get them to a counselor, or a doctor, or so forth. Get assistance from law enforcement, fire, or EMS. These folks are trained. They have the equipment, they have the skill and ability to try to diffuse these situations. If it turns into a violent situation, again, they have the skill, training, experience, and equipment that they know how to deal with that, and they can do so safely for themselves and for the individual suffering crisis. Real briefly, I want to talk about the Ohio Assist program. The Ohio Assist program is available to all public safety personnel in the state of Ohio who might find themselves in crisis or are trying to help someone else who's in crisis. We can do this through the division's members assistance team. There are members all over the state of Ohio. They can be contacted either by contacting the Assist office or they can be contacted through the hub. Access to persons in crisis is available through these outlets. We can put you in touch with individuals. We may be able to respond an officer there, contact a local CIT program to assist, contact local mental health clinicians, EMS, or something like that. We have those abilities to contact those individuals to try to get you assistance. Contact information for the Ohio Assist and the Members Assistance Team is located on the screen. You can also contact us through the hub at any time. They can reach out, and any one of us can be contacted at any time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the Ohio State Highway Patrol, Ohio Assist Program, or the Members Assistance Team. Thank you.